Okay, some guys that are narrow, their head is like 2.5 times as long as it is narrow. Some guys that are really wide, they're like 1.5 to 1. You know what I mean? They're like much wider than they are long. So these are the things you want to look for. Next thing I do is I pull his hairline back here and I rest my hand on top of his head. You might not have seen me do that, but what I'm looking for here is a couple of things. Weird recessions, things that flare up. I'm looking to see if somebody did this to him last time, and they did, which means that he's got a whole new hairline, and it's going to be a while before he sees his natural one again, unless I just let it grow out and turn him into like a fun little unicorn. Right? Respect the hairline. Don't just create a new one because you want to. Respect the hairline. And this is getting a little fuzzy for me. I like to see that. I also like to see if he's got some weird thing that he's trying to cover up, because some of those guys have that weird backcombing thing that all sits up here. And you're like, oh yeah, it looks like he's got his hair, and then it's just terrible. So I'm always looking for those things. And then I rest my hand on top because I'm looking for something that happens up here very commonly in guys, especially guys that have a narrow head shape. Do you know what it is?
Callus? Swirl?
You ever get those guys come in with like a peak on top?
Yeah.
Why do those guys always want like really short haircuts? Because that's like the fucking worst haircut you can get for that head shape. It's legitimately the worst haircut you can put on that head shape. Because as it grows out, it will always default to a faux hawk. You guys get a lot of people walking in asking for faux hawks still?
No.
Fuck no. I mean, that's terrible, right? We don't. I have people asking, but I'm still like, can I suggest you don't? So these are good candidates for stuff that flows backwards because it creates enough kind of volume and material here that it'll cover that up and won't cause you any problems. So again, what I'm doing, do you see the process a little bit? Because you asked me about process. Do you see how the process works? Where it's like, I know what haircuts I can do, but I would rather decide what's going to suit him best, what's going to fit his head shape, and let all of those things indicate to me what haircut I should do versus my ego telling me what I can do. Do you know what I mean? I used to have a couple guys in my shop that were like amazing at fades, and they were amazing at crop haircuts. But you know what? They didn't fucking know any other haircut. And as soon as my clients all walked in the door, they're like, I noticed they were like talking everybody into this faded crop haircut. And I'm like, that's cool and all, and I'm glad you like doing them, and yeah, you're quite good at them, but like, that only suits like maybe 1 out of 10 people, you know, but you're giving them to everybody. And I noticed like my Instagram, or not on Instagram, I noticed like more and more complaints starting to show up in Yelp, and I'm like, and they're always about these dudes with these crop haircuts. I'm like, sorry man, you got to go. You got to learn other haircuts or it's not gonna work out. Okay, next thing I like to check, and the very last thing, oh, it's in like right underneath me, I should have seen it. The last thing I like to check is this guy back here. What's that thing?
Occipital?
Didn't you feel like a doctor the day you found that shit out? I mean, you're in hair school and suddenly you knew some like actual human biology and you become Dr. Oz when anybody asks, you know what I mean? Like, oh, I got a bump on the back of my head, and suddenly that thing kicks in. We're like, everyone does. That's your occipital bone. Not all occipital bones are created equal, and this area dictates to me exactly what type of haircut I think is going to be easiest to do or easiest to grow out. Some guys have an occipital bone that sticks out like a nose out the backside, right? These are not good people to try and do a nice long stretched out fade on, because that gradient, that degree of dark to light, that thing that most people think of it when they think of the word fade, what they really should be thinking is gradient. It goes from dark to light, and that should be nice and smooth and blended, and that is impossible to do over an aggressive occipital bone if you're trying to blend over top of it, because it'll be dark here, big white hole right in the middle of it, and your haircut's burned. It's not going to look good no matter what. For guys like this, like I had one guy that I put up on stage with me at this like event in front of like thousands and thousands of people, and he came up and he's like, hey, I really want to model for you guys, and he's really handsome. I'm facing the guy, I'm like, yeah man, that's great, awesome, yeah, you'd be perfect. And then he started walking away. I like told him the time to show up. I gave him the handshake. I'm like, all right. He turned around, and you know, he didn't have like those, like, you know, those stack of sausages that happen back here. Yeah. Okay. He didn't just have those. He had like. He didn't just have like a couple of these things. He had what looked like somebody had taken a burrito and turned it sideways and like glued it on. You know, it was like massive. And I was just like, what the actual fuck? And that was like one of those like panic inside of myself moments. So, but what ended up happening was it was a great teaching moment, because for me, what I like to do with those things is either I like to, if they have light colored hair or dark colored hair is going to determine. Dark colored hair shows off those indentations so strong, like so strong. Even just a tiny little bit of hair will make a deep, deep shadow there. So for those guys, I usually skin it up and work on top, right? If I'm gonna do a fade, it wants a fade, it wants something nice and tight, skin it up and work from there up, okay? Because that way, this whole thing is going to grow in nice and even, and it's going to get nice even coverage, so even a month out, it's not going to look like a big white hole. Okay, but for those guys that have like lighter colored hair, a lot of the time I'll just take a really low fade or a low taper and build up enough to cover that area. Okay, I also like to look at his hairline. I like to see how strong or how weak it is. If it's particularly weak, then he's a great candidate for a taper, something like that. You know what I mean? Take some of that stuff out. I like to see if he's got like Batman symbol back here. Some of those guys do. Some guys have a duck's ass that grows like right up. And like these are all the things that I'm trying to figure out so I can navigate around those things and be like, what's the best haircut to do for you? What's going to make you feel good? I do all those things in my brain before I ask him what he wants. Okay, and when I ask him what he wants, a lot of the time, what do they usually say? What's that?
It's like a regular haircut.
I want a good haircut.
Yeah. Which is another way of saying,
I have no idea.
I have no idea.
Made me look good.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
You ever hear that one? Do whatever you want? How much of the time you think they mean it? Yeah, the answer is 0. 0 times. Okay, 0 times.
I think with guys, sometimes I really don't.
Yeah, we think that.
You think that, but
Honestly, they just want your opinion.
sometimes.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they want, okay? But what they also want you to do a little bit is read their mind, because they're too embarrassed to try and tell you what they want if they're not real confident in their opinion or decision. And so they're kind of acquiescing to exactly what you said. You're supposed to know. You're supposed to be an expert.
Right.
Which, for us, not really. Because for us, what it really means is I have to read your fucking mind. Because otherwise, if you really want me to do whatever I want right now, well, I have a penchant for tennis. So I'm like, we could just shave this short, bleach it, color it green, put some nice little lines in it. And awesome, you know, great. I'm really digging mullets right now, and I'm thinking, you know, I love that little crop. So that's the thing. That's what we need to look at, and that's what we need to do, okay? We need to read his mind. And a lot of the time when I'm trying to read his mind, what I like to do is this. All right. It's pretty obvious to me. Oh, hang on, pump that up a little bit. Pretty obvious to me how he styles his hair. Is it pretty obvious to you guys? Let's say it's not, though, because a lot of people come in with their hair a lot less styled than this, and this is not even leave me a lot of options to make some dramatic changes. But a lot of the time what I like to do is this. I'm like, I kind of look at him like, man, you got really good hair. Like, wow, you got like so much hair, that's awesome. And I make him look kind of emo and very obviously not the style that he is, right? And then I ask him kind of like, what do you, like, I look for what he does, right? So like,
You look great.
right?
I rock this melon.
He thinks I'm fucking with him, but I'll do it. You see what he's done with his hands twice?
That is
Got it out of my face.
in his face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is that telling you? Yes.
Likes it out of his face.
Likes it out of his face. A lot of the time I just have to have a conversation, wait a couple minutes, and be really obvious that I'm not going to move his fucking hair for him. Because eventually he'll move it, right?
Yeah.
And how he moves it tells you how he does it. The hardest part about changing a guy's style is actually changing the way he styles it.
Yeah.
It's not changing the haircut. Haircut's easy to change, right? Changing the hairstyle is the hardest thing, by just trying to get him to do something other than what he naturally does with his hands. When a guy pulls his hair up like this and pushes it back, okay, he wants volume in the front and he wants it to slope back. If he pushes it up and off to one side, he wants it all to flow to one side, right? If he like messes it up or really tries to just pull it up and leave it, he wants texture, he wants volume. You know what I mean? If he slicks it right back like this, he has too much volume, his hair feels too thick, he wants less of it. These are the things we look for. The conversation that you're having with your client without using your mouth is so integral to being able to like be that person behind the chair that works a fucking miracle for that guy. And it's the reason why he comes back every single time, because you just seem to know exactly what he wants. And it's not magic, it's just observation. Make sense? Awesome. So one of the things I'm going to run through is what he has already. What he has already is sometimes a very good indicator of what he wants, but not always, right? So we like to look and go like, do you want to change this up? Is there something different? There are a few barriers that I have here today for doing anything particularly educational around like a lot of sectioning and a lot of things. I'll touch on them, but I'm not going to be able to demonstrate some of them. The soul fade person might actually get their wish, and you might actually learn anything. So, I mean, and again, there's so many different ways to do that, okay, but I'll work through a little bit of the way I work. But there's a few things that I think are problematic to the existing haircut that he has. It's going to be really, really hard for us to get over in a single haircut. Right? You ever have those people that come in, you want to change it up, but there's a few things where you're like, well, this is already way too short. Mm-hmm. Right? Where is it usually way too short?
Back.
Crown. When you cut the crown off of a haircut, you basically make that guy an indentured servant to that haircut. Okay? Like, he can't fucking change it. he can, but it's going to go through an awkward phase regardless. And the funny thing about it is it's like the person that changes it is responsible for the awkward phase. When a guy comes in with his crown cut off like that, I'm usually like, fuck no. Like, do I want to be responsible for the guy walking out the door going like, yeah, I tried a different guy, now my fucking hair sticks up all the time. They're like, actually, it was the dude before that that caused that, but you don't know. Because they don't know. They don't, right? Communication, that's really important. Okay, so I see these things. I see he's got this nice little, like, kind of comb over side part kind of thing. Let's ask him what he wants. What do you think?
I typically do a skin fade on the sides.
I could see that.
Yeah, typically.
Does anybody know how I can see that, by the way? Just to touch on?
Just by he doesn't have a hairline.
Does he have two haircuts there? Or does it all blend down into one? Two. Where? Where's the second one? Maybe it's easier from that side. Do you see a ridge?
Middle of the ear.
Right here. There's a shadow. But you would see a very obvious demarcation if you didn't. Right? If it blends down really nice and tight, you're not going to see demarcation there. You can blend right into the neck hair. If I was a betting man, I would say, what, 3 weeks ago? Almost 4.
Not that.
All right. How did I know that? No. I'm actually not good at all, but hi.
The style, like, typically, I would guess it was a bald just because of how much it's growing already. Yeah.
Hair grows about 1/2 inch a month. This is not quite 1/2 inch. All right, so I can guess about 3.5, 4 weeks just by the length of the hair on his neck. Because a surprising amount of guys don't get this shit tuned up. Right? Even me. Like, I was later at a hair show about to go on stage the other day. Somebody looks at me like, it just spins me around like, this is not okay. I go out on stage looking like a homeless man. I got a haircut yesterday, which is like my biannual, I think. So, all right. So that's about how long it's been. This is what